When that little white girl said to me, "How come you're the teacher here if you got them blue eyes?" And in the afternoon, I pulled down the map, the ruler map, and the map, the ring slipped off my thumb, and the map went around and around and around the ruler.
Right.
And I said, "Well, I've done it again." And that same little girl said, "Well, what expect? You've got blue eyes, haven't you?" And I can still see the picture in my mind's eye. I could see myself backhanding that little brown-eyed girl, and I wasn't thinking girl, I was thinking the B word. I wanted her to fly through the air, hit the wall, and slide down like a broken egg, and I wanted to be at the bottom when she got there. And then I was furious at that child, and then I was furious at me, because I realized what I had just done. I was willing to do physical damage to a child because of what she said in an exercise that I created to see to it that she wouldn't say that kind of thing about other people in the future. I was just furious.
Okay, this is Tim Brown with GOaL, and we're here with Mrs. Jane Elliott, and we're gonna talk today. I don't like to call it an interview, because
All right, we'll just visit.
we'll visit
Okay.
and have a conversation. And just to tell you a little bit, just some background about us in the first few minutes, because they tell me I talk too much about me, so I need to quit that.
Okay, you're done now.
Exactly. Here's where this began with us. Nick actually, I knew about you and had seen some of your stuff, but Nick. We dug in a little bit deeper and saw some of your stuff, read some of your stuff, and I was just intrigued. And GOaL, what we do at GOaL is Get Out and Live, is we try to actually provide a place for people to feel like they can be themselves, regardless of who they are, whether that's in the LGBTQ community or race or whatever your race is.
We've got to stop saying race.
Okay.
No such thing.
Okay, so don't say race too. I'm making notes on things I don't need to say.
We are not going to say race. We are going to say color group.
Color, okay.
There's only one race. It's the human race.
And see, coming from the South, I'm always afraid to say the word color, but you think that's more appropriate?
There are 2,500 different skin colors on the face of the earth. Can you come up with 2,500 different names for races?
I cannot.
Well, then if you can't, you better say color groups, because there are lots of different color groups.
All right,
color groups and cultural groups, but not races. There's only one race. You and I are cousins, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Every person on the earth is a 30th to 50th cousin to every other person on the earth, because we all come from the same ancestor, and she was a black woman.
Okay. Well, that's my second time I've been corrected, and I've been here 5 minutes.
Okay. Get used to it.
So that's great. Somebody said the other day, said, you're going to see Jane Elliott. She said, she might get on you about some things. I'm a Southern gentleman, I was like, well, it's number 2 already.
Well, if it bothers you, shut up.
I'm kidding.
It's very simple. Just don't ask me any questions, and we'll just sit here and look at each other
drink tea,
for the next 15 to 20 minutes. And I'll drink my tea, and you won't get any tea, because I don't give you sugar.
So basically, we were talking about when we started GOaL, and I'll move on from that. I came out late in life, and so the Get Out and Live was really about me at first, and then I realized this is something we can do for other people. And then we realized it grew to be more than just about the LGBTQ community. It was everybody needs to get. Right. Everybody does, but some people don't have that privilege to get out and live like others. I, as a white male, have some other opportunities, not the word privilege, but the other opportunities to do that.
Things are easier for you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and so what we then decided we'd do, because the anniversary, which I hate using the word anniversary when someone is assassinated, like Martin Luther King Jr., but it just doesn't sound...
But it is the
anniversary, but that sounds like a celebration to me, and I just,
No, the observation of.
The observation of, right.
Yeah, observation
and that's
is better
coming up, it's April the 4th.
April 5th. April 4th, because I did the exercise on the 5th.
Right, and so what we then decided is that we wanted to do something called the Humanity Project. And you're our initial interview, the big one really, so that we can talk to people who were in the grassroots of, what it looks like from that day forward. Because that to me was a pivotal event that said a lot about us as a country, a lot about people, the bad side of people, and then it also it's sort of the catalyst for what is next. So I want to just, talk about that day briefly. So you, on that day that he was assassinated, where were you when that happened?
Oh God. See, I really hate to relive that, because it makes me sick to my stomach, literally.
Yeah.
I was teaching 3rd grade, and our lesson plan for the next day was to learn the Sioux Indian prayer that says, "O Great Spirit, keep me from ever judging a man until I've walked a mile in his moccasins." we're doing the Indian unit because it's always fun, and it's the end of the year, last 2 months of the school year.
Right.
Kids are bored to death. They want to get out there. The sap's rising, and they want to be outside. So I do the Indian unit. We were to learn that prayer the next day. I was taking the teepee home that my previous year's third graders had made. I was going to take it home, wash it, iron it, take it back the next day, and they were going to paint Indian symbols on it. Indian symbols chosen by white folks.
Right, right.
Indian poetry written by white folks.
Right.
By the shores of Gitche Gumee. I'm sure you don't remember that one.
Right.
And we're going to sing Indian songs written by white folks.
Well, there you go.
And we're going to read Indian history written by white folks. And I walked into the door of my house, and the telephone was ringing, and I answered the phone, and my sister said, is your television on? I said, no. She said, you better turn it on. I said, why? She said, because they shot him. I said, who'd they shoot this time? Because we'd already had several.
Right.
And she said, Martin Luther King Jr. And I got sick to my stomach, and I got instantly angry, and instantly destroyed for a minute, because Martin Luther King represented hope to me. John F. Kennedy didn't,
Right.
but Martin Luther King Jr. did. And he had been one of our heroes of the month in February, along with, unfortunately, George Washington, who owned slaves, bought and sold people for money.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln, who incidentally was our first black president. Davy Crockett, who died killing Mexicans as we tried to take over part of their land. Those were our heroes of the month.
Right.
And I realized instantly, oh my God, I've been teaching racism all this time. And I turned on the television, and then I found out how really racist we are. I watched Walter Cronkite interviewed 3 leaders of the black community, and he said to those men, when our leader was killed, his widow held us together. Who's going to keep your people in line? I was absolutely thunderstruck. How could that man, as wise as he was, as old as he was, as knowledgeable as he was, not know what he was saying when he questioned those men in that way? I was furious. So I changed the channel, and there's Dan Rather saying to 3 leaders of the black community, don't you Negroes think you should feel sympathy for the whites during this experience, because we can't feel the anger at this killing that you can? And I thought, you son of a bitch. Now, I know you're not supposed to say that, but I was absolutely furious that here is this man who has tremendous power because he's a television personality, and he is admitting that he doesn't feel anger at the killing of the man who, for me, represented hope in this country. I was absolutely furious. I stopped ironing the teepee, I folded it up, I put it in the bedroom closet, and I planned what I was going to do the next day. Because at that moment, I decided that we were going to discuss the killing of Martin Luther King Jr., and if my kids, my 3rd graders, didn't understand what we were talking about, and I knew they wouldn't because I didn't. Right. I didn't understand why he had to die.
Right.
If they didn't understand it, I was going to do what Hitler did. And what we are doing in this country right now. I was going to split that group on the basis of a physical characteristic over which they had no control, and I was going to split them one of the ways Hitler did, one of the ways they decided who went into the gas chamber during what we're now calling the Holocaust was eye color. If you had brown eyes and a good German name, they thought you might be a Jewish person who was trying to pass because your eyes weren't blue, and they threw you into the gas chamber. They killed hundreds of thousands of people on the basis of eye color alone. I decided the next day it worked for Hitler, it would probably work for me. I didn't know how well it would work. I had no idea. I had no idea how well it would work. If I had, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I was born and raised in that community.
Right. My
My great-grandfather was one of the first settlers there. People knew us and trusted us. My aunt and my older sister all both taught in that school, and they knew that I would know what I was doing. And they trusted me. And so the next morning I went into my classroom. The first student, Stephen Armstrong, came in and said, hey, Elliott, they shot that king last night. Why did they shoot that king? I said, we're going to talk about it, Stephen. So after we had done those things you have to do, first thing in the morning, say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag with the words under God in it, which weren't there when I was a kid. They put them in during the Eisenhower years to stop the progress of godless communism.
Right.
They thought putting the words under God in the pledge would do it. Well, that didn't work. That's another thing that didn't work. Then we sang God Bless America, because kids love to sing God Bless America. So that was another prayer. I broke the law twice before we ever started talking about the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. So then I asked these kids what they knew about blacks, and they knew things that I had never heard. They had heard ugly things about blacks that I had never heard, and I was absolutely shocked. And I said, how do you kids know these things are true? Every one of them said, it was almost like a course, because my dad said so. I said, well, Do you kids have any idea how it would feel to be something other than white in this country? No. Would you like to know? Yeah, it was like we've already gotten out of spelling and handwriting. Keep this broad talk and we don't have to learn anything for the rest of the day.
It's like a
Because that's
recess
what
all
kids
day long,
do.
yeah.
You know that's what they do, especially
Absolutely.
if they're social studies and the teacher is a coach.
Right.
Then all they have to do is ask about anyway. So I said, all right, today we're going to treat people positively or negatively on the basis of the color of their eyes. And they, like, what do you mean? I said, I mean brown-eyed people are smarter than blue-eyed people because I'm blue-eyed, and the power had to be with the
Right.
with the people who were going to be discriminated against on the first day. It would have been horrible if I had done it the other way.
Right.
It's because blue-eyed people had the numbers, and it would have been a mess. So I said, brown-eyed people are smarter than blue-eyed people. They're cleaner than blue-eyed people. They're more civilized than blue-eyed people. Blue-eyed people, and there sat Debbie in the front row, and she looked at me and she said, "How come you're the teacher here if you've got them blue eyes?" And I thought, well, you little shit. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. This was supposed to happen to my kids. Immediately, blue-eyed Alan Moss in the back row stood up and said, if she didn't have them blue eyes, she'd be the principal or the superintendent. They're both brown-eyed. That quickly, these kids
Adapted
let
to
me
it.
know
Yeah.
that we know how to be racist. You don't have to teach us how to be racist. We already know. They know. They don't know how the system works, but they know how they can stay comfortable within the system. If somebody had taught me that my little third graders in that all-white, all-Christian community would have said the things they said that day, I would have said, you're crazy. My kids wouldn't say those things. My kids have been taught not to judge people on the basis of physical characteristics over which they have no control. And I'd have been wrong, flat out wrong.
Yeah.
The worst day I have ever taught. Horrible, horrible things happened during that day, and they weren't that horrible. Nobody got shot.
Right.
Nobody got beaten up. Nobody got, they still had enough to eat. They had enough. They knew that it was going to end at the end of the day.
There was a marked time.
But it was awful. And I went down to I went down to the teachers' lounge at noon to share with the other third grade teachers what was going on in my classroom. I needed some help. I walked into the room. There were a number of my peers there, and I told them what was happening in my classroom the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. One of the other third grade teachers said, "I don't know how you have time for all that extra stuff. It's all I can do to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic." Well, she hadn't taught reading, writing, and arithmetic yet. She might as well have been doing the extra stuff. The other one said, and I'll never forget this as long as I live, gray-haired, church twice on Sunday and once in the middle of the week, looked up at me and said, "I don't know why you're doing that. I thought it was about time somebody shot that son of a bitch."
Really?
And nobody said, "Helen, do you know what you've just done?"
Wow.
And nobody said, "You could lose your job for that."
Yeah.
And nobody said, "Insomuch as ye have done it unto one of these my brethren, so have ye done it unto me."
Yeah.
And nobody said, "Judge not that ye be not judged." They all either smiled or laughed and nodded. She had expressed their feelings perfectly, and as the most senior member of the group, she had the most right to do so. At that point, I decided that I was going to end this thing at noon because it was too ugly. And I decided that no third grader or anybody else will ever leave my presence with those attitudes unchallenged. I will change those attitudes wherever I meet them and wherever I will confront them. I will not put up with it. And I went back to my classroom and we finished the day with the blue-eyed people on the bottom and the brown-eyed people on the top. I was afraid to go home that night. I was sure there'd be a cross burning in my front yard. I was sure I was going to lose my job. But on Monday, nobody called me. Nobody called to complain. Nothing. Nothing. It's like I had dropped a rock into a pool in the forest. There were no ripples. It was nothing. Went back into my classroom on Monday, told the kids I had lied to them on Friday, that blue-eyed people were really smarter than brown-eyed people. And I watched kids who had been able to read at the 6th grade level, 4th to 6th grade level on Friday because they had the right eyes. Couldn't read at the 3rd grade level on Monday. I watched kids who were brilliant become ignorant, become less than in the space of 15 minutes on both days. The first day, the blue-eyed people were on the bottom, and I had one brilliant blue-eyed child who had come into my room in February reading at the 6th grade level. In 3rd grade, she had never multiplied when she came to my room. I taught her how to multiply the first 15 minutes of math class. She never made a mistake in multiplication again. She's brilliant. She had a steel-trap mind. Steel-trap mind. The day she was on the bottom in that exercise, she walked with her shoulders hunched as if to ward off an expected blow. She stumbled when she crossed the classroom. She made mistakes in reading. She made mistakes in spelling. And she forgot how to multiply. She came in from recess crying, and I said, "What's going on here?" As she walked across the playground, 2 brown-eyed Debbies and a brown-eyed Cindy stepped up behind her. One of them reached up and struck her across the back with her forearm. And when Carol turned around, Debbie said to her, now you have to apologize to me for getting in my place, in my way, because I'm better than you are. And Carol apologized and came in crying. That would never have happened in my classroom if I had not introduced racism based on eye color into my classroom. And the kinds of things that you see, the confrontations that you see between people, different color groups in this country, would never have happened if we white people hadn't deliberately brought racism to this land and perpetuated it to this day.
Well, I mean, when I was growing up in the Birmingham area, you know, the Inslee, Birmingham, all that stuff, you know all about that. I went to a school, Concord. I had these two friends, Loretta and Landrum, and hope they don't mind me sharing the story, but we were in the 4th grade, we became buddies, and we didn't know then that 1968, I think, was when the desegregation began, and then
It was before that.
It was before that. Okay,
yeah.
So it was a process because in Alabama it took a little bit longer. I don't know why, but it did. And, well, I mean, I do know why, but
I know why.
you know what I mean. I don't know the details,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so about 3 years ago, I had not seen Loretta and Landrum since the 4th grade. Both black students that were there. We had no clue. She wrote me a message on Facebook. And she said, Tim, is this the Tim Brown that went to Concord? And I said, yeah, this is Tim.
Cool.
And she said, I have to tell you this. She said that morning, when we first started school there, she said, basically, and I may get the details not exactly right, but she said they bussed us from about 30 minutes away. And she said, we didn't know what was going on, she and Landrum, but we just came, you know. And she said, when we got there, we found this smiling, funny, laughing guy named Tim. And we became best friends, the three of us, you know. We used to sing, so I used to sing these black soul songs that they would sing and
right.
stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know what, I could sing a couple, but I'd embarrass everybody. But we just had a good time. And we did not know any different about just being friends. And I realized that she said in her message, she said, you know, basically we are taught to hate.
Absolutely.
You don't just come out of the womb and decide you're white, you're black, and I'm not going to like you. And but I did not realize I, as a child, years later in the 4th grade, was still a part of that process.
Absolutely.
And we had no clue.